Math 76, Lesson 30, Least Common Multiples and Reciprocals. Now, I'm going to go ahead and warn you about least common multiples, also known as the LCM. Many of you are going to confuse these with greatest common factor. So let's do a quick review of the difference between a multiple and a factor. So, let's say we take the number 8, for example. If I were going to list the factors of 8, remember, in a multiplication problem, we have a factor times a factor equals a product, right? So a factor is a number to be multiplied. In this case, if I'm finding the greatest common factors, or the GCM of the number 8, I'm finding out what numbers times will multiply to create a product of 8. So essentially our question is, what times what equals 8? And that's my factors. So I know that 1 times 8 will equal 8. I know that 2 times 4 will equal 8. And is there anything else? 3 doesn't work, 4 is already there, 5 doesn't work, 6 doesn't work, 7 doesn't work. Okay, so these are my, whoops, why did I put GCM? GCF. I've been saying greatest common factor, and I put M instead. Greatest common factor. Not sure what I was trying to get away with there. So, greatest common factor of 8. So these are the factors of 8, so the greatest common factor of 8 would be compared to another number. So let's say we take the number 4, right? The greatest common factor of 4 is 1, 4, and then 2 and 2. Whoops, I don't put 2 twice. So the factors of 4, if I were looking for the greatest common factor, I would see the common factor here is 4, right? They also have 2, but 2 is not the greatest one. So the greatest common factor, GCF, equals 4. Now let's talk about multiples, and we'll use 4 and 8 again. So let's say I've got the number 8, and I want to list the multiples of 8. Remember, multiples are products, okay? Factors create a number, multiples are products. So for multiples of 8, I'm asking what products can I make with the number 8, starting with the number 1. So I would say 1 times 8 is equal to 8. 2 times 8 is equal to 6. Whoops, what am I writing here? 2 times 8 is equal to 16. 3 times 8 is equal to 24. 4 times 8 is equal to 32. 5 times 8 is equal to 40. 6 times 8 is equal to 48. 7 times 8 is equal to 56. 8 times 8 is equal to 64. 9 times 8 is equal to 73. Wait, hold on. I feel like I made a mistake. 72. No, I was right. Okay. 9 times 8 is equal to 72. And then 10 times 8 is equal to 80. And I'll go ahead and stop at 10 for the sake of brevity. Okay. Now let's talk about the multiples of the number 4. So multiples for 4 would be 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40, and I'll stop at 10 again, okay? Now, the least common multiple, or the LCM, is going to find the multiple between these two numbers that is the smallest, right? So I'll go ahead and I'll circle the common multiples here. We've got 8 in both of these. We've got 16, that matches up. We've also got 24, those match up. 32, that matches up. And then we've also got 40, okay? Now, the comparison here is that if you remember, in greatest common factor, our greatest common factors, our common factors were 1, 2, and 4. We wanted the biggest one. In least common multiple, we want the smallest one. So, of all of our pairs that we have here, the one I'm going to choose is the smallest one, or the number 8. So my least common multiple between 4 and 8 is equal to 8. Okay? And for now, your book will be sticking with small numbers like 4, 8, 2, and 6, or 3 and 4. Okay? So what you'll do is you'll just list the multiples of those numbers until you find the smallest one that they have in common. All right? Now let's go on to reciprocals. Now, reciprocal is a very large word. Essentially, all it means is reciprocals are a pair of numbers that, when multiplied, equal the number 1. So, kind of similar to our factor problem, we wanted to know a product of 8. For a reciprocal Let me make sure I spell this one right. Reciprocal. For reciprocals, the problem here is what number times another number equals a product of 1. Okay? So, reciprocals multiply to equal the number 1 all the time. Now this is very important because this can be used to check your answer, and you will always know you're right as long as your answer equals the number 1. So how do we find reciprocals? The quickest way to say it is you just take a fraction and you flip it upside down. Reciprocals are like an inverted fraction. So for example, let's say I've got the number 1/3. The reciprocal of 1/3 would be this fraction, but flipped upside down. So I would take the 1 and the 3, and I would have them switch places. So the reciprocal would be 3/1. Now I can check this by multiplying. If I take 1 times 3, I get 3. 3 times 1 gives me 3. 3/3 is equal to 1, which checks out. Both numbers multiply to equal the number 1. So reciprocals, you just take the fraction and flip it upside down. Now what if it's not a fraction? Let's say I want you to find the reciprocal of the number 4. Well, take the number 4, turn it into a fraction, so the reciprocal would then be 1/4, or the opposite of that. If I multiply them, I end up getting 4/4, which is also equal to 1. Now these are very simple. Let's try some harder examples. Let's say we need to find the reciprocal of 8/5. All right, what is the reciprocal of 8/5? It is 5/8. I'm just taking the numbers and flipping them upside down, right? And I can double check my answer by multiplying. 8 times 5 is equal to 40. 5 times 8 is equal to 40. Same number on top of itself is equal to 1. All right, so that's reciprocal. It's just a term you have to memorize, a concept that's pretty simple once you understand this question right here. And then it's also very easy to check your answers. If you guys have any questions, let me know on the school website, and I will see you in class.